Welcome to the program today. You know, if you grew up in an abusive household, the thought of examining your memories could be frightening. But facing your past can break the bondage of pain in your life. Joining me again today is Christian psychologist Dr. Kevin Leman. Well, Dr. Leman, once again we get an opportunity to talk about how that beginning can affect us, but I don't believe has to all of your life. I tell people all the time, just because you don't have a good beginning doesn't mean you can't have a good finish.
Exactly. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. But a lot of people grew up in homes where the parents were abusive, you know. And it's easy. I grew up in Buffalo, New York area and had a father who was very traditional, 8th graded, educated, Roman Catholic man. And his real gift in life was yelling and screaming. And I can remember as a kid, he'd say, "You want me to get the shillelagh?" And I remember as a kid going, no, not the shillelagh. I'll do whatever you want me to do. Don't get the shillelagh. But God is my judge. I didn't know, Joyce, what a shillelagh was. I never saw a shillelagh. I didn't realize what a shillelagh was until I was a sophomore in college.
Well, I still don't know, so tell me.
It's a walking stick. You wouldn't want to be, it's a crooked walking stick. You wouldn't want to be hit with it for sure. But just generally, as adults, we grew up in authoritarian homes.
Right, yeah.
Now today, homes are far too permissive.
Right, exactly.
You know, Brittany plays soccer, but they don't keep score. We believe every child should be a winner.
Right.
And then we've got the, hey, turn down that TV in there. I'm trying to do your homework.
Yeah.
We got the permissive parents. Here's the question. Is God an authoritarian? Does God grab us by the scruff of the neck, twist our earlobe or our ear, and say you're going to do this? No, he's not an authoritarian. Certainly not permissive. He's the authoritative.
Right.
You know, the supreme authority. And so the home that has that balance is a healthy home. But a lot of kids don't grow up with that. They grow up with the feeling that they didn't measure up, they weren't good enough, they had to please everybody else. They were carrot seekers.
Right.
Where's my carrot? And so whatever that life theme is in your life that was imprinted to you when you were young, chances are you're going to carry it forward in life. Joyce, through social promotion, we promote kids across school systems in our country every day who flunk courses. Right. Why would you put a kid forward in the next grade when he didn't pass? But that's the society we live in today. No one's held accountable for anything, it seems like.
Well, that's so true, and that's such a danger to
There's a school system. I just saw this in the paper. By school board policy, they won't allow you to give a grade of 61% or less to any child from K through 12 in their school system. There's something wrong with that. I'm proud of the 22 I got in elementary algebra. It's all I could muster up. But so either extreme produces a situation for a young adult growing up that's not healthy for him.
Well, I know that God taught me a long time ago that excess is always the devil's playground. And I think any time that we're out of balance this way or this way, which the human flesh has a tendency to just go between this and that, I think it's a real key to be an authoritative parent, but yet a loving parent, to tell your children the things that they need to work on, but not make them feel beat up and beat down all the time. I think if there's anything we need to pray about, it's how to be a balanced person in life.
Yes. You know, in the little book I did on early childhood memories, I'm going to cheat and read it for you because it's got to be said right. The ABCs of true therapy. Accept your memories are inaccurate. Your memories are inaccurate.
Yeah.
Believe the truth about your memories. And then C, change your behavior based upon the truth. Well, as a Christian, you tell me what's truth. Yeah. What is truth?
The Word of God.
And so a lot of us believe things about ourselves that aren't true. I don't know if you get strength from people like St. Paul, but St. Paul calls himself worthless.
Yeah.
If he's worthless, you tell me where Kevin Leman is, please.
Yeah.
But through God's grace, that's the difference. You know, look at marriage. Expectation, I call it. Before you got married, you have these conversations with your husband and your wife. Oh, pretty soon we're going to be married. We're never going to have to say goodnight again. Someday, oh, we're going to have children. They're not going to be like your kids, your sister's kids. That's the expectation stage. Then you have reality. You know, you find out your wife has morning breath that could kill a cockroach at 4.5 feet. And there's your husband eating pizza, watching 2 ball games simultaneously. And then disillusionment. And then license, and then divorce. Now, I'm moving along quick, but that's the American marriage today. 7 years later, you're divorced.
Well, I think one of the problems is when people get married, they always get married with the expectation that this other person now is going to make them happy.
Yes.
When really what we should do is take responsibility for our own happiness and do everything we can to make somebody else happy.
Aren't you smart?
Then it.
You're very, but people don't get that, Joyce.
Right.
What you just said is the crux of what makes a marriage go. It's that 100-100. Jesus washed some feet.
And I'm not even a psychologist.
Yeah, you are now. I made you one.
Okay, listen, we said on the program yesterday,
yes.
and I'm trying to keep my word here because we got so many subjects
so here's
they're
the
so interesting.
You're a firstborn.
Yeah.
Okay, so you want order.
Yeah.
I'm a baby. I could care less.
Right.
So you're going to have to right the ship. What do you want to talk about?
Okay, birth order.
Okay. Now there's themes. There's themes with you firstborns. You'll remember the negative things. You'll remember falling off the bike. Because the firstborns were guinea pigs for parents. There's not a firstborn living that hasn't gone to their mom or dad and said, wait a minute, you're not going to let her do that, are you?
Yeah,
you never let me do that when I was her age. Okay, or how about this one? I don't care what he did. Do you understand me? You are the oldest. I expect a little bit more to you, young woman or young man. And so here's a little firstborn, and you watch kids growing up, they're 3, 4 years old, they take their Thomas the Trains, and they'll line them up perfectly. Or their little CDs, they line them up perfectly. The little tag in the back of the shirt drives the firstborn kid up the wall. The socks that have the seam wrong in it drives them. It's
I
the little
still
things.
cut tags out of my clothes.
Yeah.
I can't stand them.
But that's a firstborn quality. And there's the youngest child, the other extreme. He's walking around with his underwear tucked in his back pocket and could care less. So
what happens to the middle ones?
they're lost. God love them. They just sort of get along through life. But so with the themes you see with the memories is the firstborns, I only count in life when I dominate. I only count in life when I control. And you look at their memories, and they're perfectionistic memories, okay? So they're the most likely to grow up with a critical eye, which is not going to be encouragement to other people, but it's going to pick out the flaw. The irony here is that the person who's an engineer or an architect, firstborn occupation, by the way, or a pilot, he gets paid, she gets paid for flying that plane perfectly. But that same person comes home to dinner and finds the flaw and says, hey, what's with the broccoli? Well, there's a good chance you could be wearing broccoli shortly because it's not going to be rewarded in the truest sense of the word. So we got all the firstborn themes of perfection, doing things right. Then we have the middle children, and they remember things, memories of comparing themselves to other people. They always have lots of people in their memories, okay? And they're the toughest to pin down of all the birth orders because they play off of what's ever above them in the family. So whatever the firstborn is, the secondborn personality, in all probability, is going to go a different direction. Then you have us babies of the family who remember Christmases, birthdays, parties, surprises. Firstborns, by their nature, don't like surprises because they're planners and organizers. And I learned this in life with my wife. When she turned the speed limit 55, I took her out to dinner. She's a 5-forker. She likes a really nice restaurant. She loves the presentation. I'm a 1-forker. I like the Waffle House. Plastic fork's fine with me. Anyway, I take her out.
I'll go eat with your wife.
Yeah, I bet you would. But I take her out to this really nice restaurant, and afterward we're walking up to our house, and she's telling me how much she enjoyed just being with me, and she loved the birthday and all that. I got 36 people in my house that ready to yell surprise. and she's dead tired.
Yeah.
So it's easy to do life from behind your own eyes.
Right.
The idea in marriage, for example, is to get behind your wife. Dave has to get behind your eyes and see how you see life.
It's like one of the things that I used to get so mad at Dave about all the time in the early years of our marriage was he'd go to work all week and I'd stay home with the kids. And then on the weekends, on Saturday, he wanted to play golf, and Sunday he wanted to watch football. Well, I didn't want him to do that because I was only seeing life from my viewpoint that I was home all week with these kids, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this, and I did this, but I wasn't realizing that he worked all week and that he needed also to relax and he needed to do something that he enjoyed. We always have a tendency to look at everything from our own viewpoint, and it's not a giving attitude at all.
No, we tend to be hedonistic, but the smart husband is at the store and says, honey, I'm at the store. Is there anything I can bring home? Do you need anything? The smart husband comes home and sees it's been a bad day and sees that the whole family room looks like a train wreck. And rather than prop his feet up and go through the mail and read the paper, he picks it up. Because when a woman sees a man come through the door, Joyce, she sees relief coming from the bullpen.
Yeah.
And he better be a reliever or he's going to be in trouble.
When Dave and I got married and we started having kids, You didn't have all the books and material
no.
available to you then. We had one book for helping raise children, and it was a book by a doctor named Dr. Spock, and it was about that thick, a paperback book. And anything that went wrong with your kid or you needed to know, you got in that book and looked. Today, there's thousands of resources for people. Same way with marriage. Nobody taught me to be a parent. Nobody taught me anything about how to be a wife, and so I come from this abusive background. My husband's father was an alcoholic, and you know, he had a great Christian mom, which really was a benefit to him. But it's almost like damaged people get with damaged people, then they just are banging on each other, damaging each other and their kids.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, though, because there's people watching us right now who are dating, and they came out of one of those relationships where they weren't prized and loved by their daddy. The best guess is, you know what, lady, you're going to go and you're going to find somebody who's going to reinforce the negative self-image you have about yourself. Mm-hmm. You're most likely to bring home someone who's going to abuse you, use you in some way, shape, or form. So before you go into, a quote, a relationship, you better get yourself right with your maker, because your maker is the one who can change the fact that your perception of yourself isn't, I'm no good. Your perception is, I'm a child of God and he loves me.
Right.
And you're like that woman, I had her pray in the mirror, God, help me learn to love me as I know you love me.
Yeah.
And ladies, if you're out there dating, A, does this man have a temper? Not a good sign. Dump the chump, okay? Does he have a good relationship?
And don't think you're going to change him after you marry him.
Oh, yeah. No. Here's what women do. They get their little Brillo pad out, and they see this leopard they're about to walk down the aisle with, and they start working on the spots of the leopard.
Right.
The only thing they're going to do is irritate the leopard.
Yeah.
So if a man has a temper, he doesn't have a good relationship with his mother, be careful. Wave that caution flag. Here's a thought. When you walk down the aisle, how many people get married? At least 6. Where are you getting the 6 from? You marry your in-laws. You either reap the benefit or you pay for what happened in that home. And that's why it's important, the words we choose to use with our kids, you know. Yeah. And I would also say to any woman, don't ask that husband why. You want to eliminate a word from your vocabulary? Eliminate the word why in your husband, and your relationship will go better.
Why are you going that direction? Why are you doing that?
Well, husbands are a little bit like a seal. You say something nice about your husband, Dave. That's like throwing a 4-pound fish to a seal, where Dave will go like this, throw him a ball, and he'll balance it on his nose. He'll do anything. Men want to please their wives.
Even though men sometimes act like they don't want or need the compliments, I think they still do.
They thrive on them.
Isn't it true, though, that a lot of them act like they don't need it?
Absolutely.
I guess it's a macho ego
That's
thing.
part of the tough guy male thing. But, you know, when a man opens up his heart, you know, to be a Christian, you got to humble yourself.
Right.
You don't come to the Lord out of victory.
Right.
You come to the Lord out of failure.
Right.
And that's why I say to parents, hey, the Christian home needs to be a place where your kids learn to fail. So if you want to make a difference in your kids' life and you want to give your kids positive memories, don't put it on MasterCard and go to Disneyland. That's not going to do it. But take the time to talk to your kid about life.
Right.
And sit on their bed at night and talk with them about your life. Tell them what happened in your life. Share, talk, communicate. Simple.
We see what the past can do to us, but I don't want people to feel like, and I know you don't either, like it's too late for me. So the good news is we can recover and we can change, and God can help us get over the past, and we can still have a great future. And we're going to talk about that right after this break. Well, welcome back to the program. And if you're just joining us, Dr. Kevin Leman is with me today, and we're discussing the effects of childhood memories. Well, Dr. Leman, we've talked about this from a lot of different angles the last day and a half. We have one half of the program left today. And so the question is if you've made mistakes, if you have a negative memory from your childhood because you were treated wrong, or if maybe parents are watching, you know, even listening, I'm thinking, well, gee, yeah, I probably did that with my kids, or I should have done that, or I wish I wouldn't have done that. But let's have the good news side of this now of how can it change? What can we do to change it?
Let's start with a guy named Gene Hackman, the famous actor. You know, his early childhood memory is an interesting one. He was playing in a kid's yard, and he saw his father drive down the street. And his father gave him the high sign, a wave like this. And he said, I knew at that moment that was the last time I'd see my father. He said, my father drove out of my life. He said, I didn't find my father again until I was an established actor as an adult.
Wow.
And I went and I confronted my father with what that did to me and how it affected my relationships with authority figures in my life. He said, my father refused to talk about the past. He would only talk about the here and now or the future. He said, it was then I decided to change my early childhood memory. Well, as a guy who studied early childhood memories and used them in therapy with people behind closed doors as a way of trying to free people up from being locked into this little cage they put themselves in, I paid attention to that. What do you mean you changed your early childhood memory? How do you change an early childhood memory? It was interesting. Gene Hackman said, you know, it was at that moment I decided to change my perception of my father. As kids, even when we're hurt, even when we're abused, we tend to put adults, parents, on pedestals.
Yeah.
And he said, it was then I decided to see my father as a very imperfect person. Essentially what he did was he cut his dad some slack and he extended grace. And he started the process of forgiveness. But this is what he said. He said, I'm so glad I did that because I got to enjoy my father for 5 years before he died.
Well, you know, one of the things that helped me immensely was when God finally taught me regarding my own abuse and my attitude toward my dad was that hurting people hurt people.
Oh, exactly.
So instead of just seeing my father as a mean, violent abuser, I was able to see him as someone who had been hurt and was reacting out of his own hurt. Now, that doesn't mean that he wasn't responsible. That doesn't mean that, you know, he didn't know what he was doing was wrong. But I honestly believe that there's very, very few people in the world who get up every day just trying to see how mean they can be and how many people they can hurt.
No.
I think most people are just reacting out of their own pain and acting out the wrong things that they learned. And really, when the Bible tells us to forgive, you're really doing yourself a favor when you forgive.
You are. And I always tell people you have to run toward that fear in your life and you extend that forgiveness. You know, I have jukeboxes in my home. And there's an old Peggy Lee song called, Is That All There Is? Is That All There Is? Well, knowing the divorce statistics today, that song popped into my head. Is that all there is? Is that all there is? If that's all there is, then let's break us out some booze and have ourselves a ball if that's all there is. And I said, you know, there's got to be another stage in marriage. And I invented the word, graceful love. Graceful love. I put it all into one word. We sing that song at Easter time, He Lives. You know, we can face tomorrow because He lives. Well, you know what? If you know the creator of the universe and you can tap into the power of God's everlasting love, then maybe you could actually learn to live in concert with this imperfect person.
Right.
Yes, you do your nails at the parlor every week. We do our nails at a red light in 10 seconds or less with our front teeth. We see life differently. But it's the differences in us that make us a couple. And you extend God's grace in your life and you begin to forgive people who've hurt you and harmed you.
Right.
You're on the right path.
There's a scripture in James that is coming to my mind right now that I think is very helpful. It says, for we all, not some, but all, we all often, not occasionally, but often, stumble and fall and offend in many things. And so we all often make mistakes. And if we don't learn how to be gracious with one another and forgive people, then we end up with nothing in our own lives but torment, torment, torment. I spent enough years of my life being angry with unrealistic, false expectations. For many years, I expected everybody else to make up to me for what I didn't get in my childhood. And I think in many ways, for a lot of years in my marriage, I gave my husband the responsibility of trying to make up to me for what I did.
He was the happy keeper.
And that, you know, that wasn't his responsibility, his problem, or his fault. And it's only when we take responsibility, let God get involved in our life and say, this is the way it was, but I believe that you can take all that and work it out to my good.
Yeah.
I want to go forward, that God can begin to work.
Only because I know you love the game of football, am I going to use this example. But the quarterback comes to the line of scrimmage where the ball is, and he looks left and he looks right. Well, what's he doing? Is he looking for chicks in the stands? No. He's reading the defense to see where people are. And once in a while, he calls an audible. He changes the play at the line of scrimmage. Here's the challenge for every one of our viewers today. You're the quarterback in your life. You're in a social situation. What does the old Joyce do? What does the old Kevin do in this situation? Now, what's the new Joyce going to do? What's the new Kevin going to do? That's a checkoff. It's simple, but it works. It makes you think, okay, this is what I usually say when my husband says this or my mother-in-law says that. This is how I'm going to choose to behave differently with God's help.
Yeah, the last thing that I want to talk about here as we close is what is the best way to create positive memories. But, you know, in the last probably 6-8 months, I've been purposely thinking about making good memories. And even yesterday, my son and his wife took me shopping for a combined birthday, Mother's Day thing that kind of got away from us. And, you know, we just had a very simple, plain, ordinary day. Got a coffee, roamed around the mall, laughed, talked. But you know what? I created a positive memory. And I think it's very important for people to purposely remember the good things. It wasn't like some huge, big, exciting day, but it was a good day and one that I want to remember. So just a couple of words before we close about how can people create positive memories.
A couple of things for all the grandparents watching us. You want to give your kids and your grandchildren a great gift sometime? Get a video camera. Borrow one if you don't have one, and look into it. This is your life. Speak to the camera. Tell them about your trials. Tell them about your spiritual pilgrimage in life. Tell them who you are. You want to give them a gift that'll last a lifetime and another lifetime? Give them that. It's the little things that make a difference in our kids' lives and our grandchildren's life. Share who you are without being phony, without speaking in Christianese. Just tell it like it is, and you're giving your kids and your grandchildren something that'll last them a lifetime.
And really what people do want, more than they want anything, they want to be valued
for who they are.
And one of the ways that we can value them is by giving them time. I think today we have a tendency to replace everything with things.
Yeah.
And things are great, gifts are great, but we also have to make sure that we're taking time to invest into one another's lives.
With 5 kids, I can tell you I could afford to give my kids, quote, anything they ever wanted in life. I've taken great pride, Joyce, in not giving them squat diddly jack. But we've given them time, we've given them love, we've given them discipline, and we've affirmed them for who they are. And we treat our kids differently. You want a great gift to give to your kids? There it is.
Well, Dr. Leman, thank you for being here.